Man, I hate making videos like this. It's hard watching hardworking people lose their funds, especially people in this community and my friends within it. My heart goes out to everyone affected in the BTC community. I truly hope that there is a path to recovery. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick TLDR on what happened, who needs to pay attention, and what you need to do moving forward in order to be safe. Let's get it. First things first, Bitcoin was not hacked. The Bitcoin network is still operating as designed. What happened was a serious failure in how cold card hardware wallets generate seed phrase. And I want to make it clear why that distinction matters. Nobody broke Bitcoin. The keys controlling some Bitcoin were created with weaker security than they were supposed to. Here's the simple version. When you set up your hardware wallet, it creates your seed phrase, which is comprised of 12 to 24 words that are ultimately control your Bitcoin. That seed needs to be derived from complete unpredictable randomness. That is what makes it practically impossible for somebody to guess what your keys are. But in certain cold card firmware versions, there was a build integration error. So instead of the seed generation process using the intended hardware randomness, it used a much weaker software random number generator. The technical term for this is called entropy. In plain English, the randomness behind some wallet seeds was a lot weaker than people believed it was. And now here's the scary part. The attacker did not even need the victim's physical cold card. They did not need a PIN. They didn't even need a phishing link. They could literally work through possible seeds, compare them with public Bitcoin addresses, find the matches, and literally sweep the Bitcoin remotely. That's why it's such a big deal. What started as a small group of drained wallets has now been tracked across at least four waves. Researchers have linked roughly 1,800 Bitcoin and more than 5,000 addresses to this activity. That was roughly $116 million when that analysis was published. But I want to be careful with the exact numbers because unchained totals are still evolving and victims may still continue to be identified. So the real question is not whether the final number becomes bigger. The real question is, could your setup be exposed? And what you need to do if it is. This is primarily a cold card issue. More specifically, if you generated your seed on a cold card MK2 or MK3 using firmware version 4.0.1 through 4.1.2, you need to look into this immediately. The concern also extends to earlier firmware versions on the MK4 and MK5 and the Cold Card Q. Now, there is an important exception. If you used at least 50 independent dice rolls when creating the seed, CoinKite says the seed is not at risk from this RNG issue alone. And a strong, unique BIP39 passphrase may reduce the immediate risks. But, and I want to be clear, that does not repair the affected seed. So, unless you're certain that the dice roll exceptions applies to you, the safest move is to migrate. And hear me clearly. Updating your firmware does not fix an old seed. The update protects new wallets you create after the patch. It does not help an already weak seed become random again. So, if you think you might be affected, stay calm. Do not rush and do not trust anybody sliding into your DM. Never type your seed phrases into a website. And please, never send it to someone who claims they can check if your wallet is exposed. And never share it with a so called recovery service. Go directly to the official Cold Card Security Guide. Confirm the fixed firmware for your exact model and your release track because Standard and Edge use different version numbers. Then create a completely new seed. Back it up properly, verify your new wallet fingerprint, and receive the address. And most importantly, power cycle the device and verify the fingerprint and the address again. And then you test it by sending a very small transaction. Once that works, migrate the rest of your Bitcoin. Please follow those exact instructions so that you do not lose your Bitcoin. The goal is simple. Get your funds off the old, potentially compromised seed and onto a completely new seed. I personally use Ledger, so I am not directly exposed to this specific cold card issue. But I'm not here to make this video to dunk on cold card either, or their users. Good people use cold card. They made the best decision they could with the information they had at the time. The bigger lesson behind this whole thing is that self custody is not set it and forget it. Don't get me wrong. A hardware wallet does remove a lot of risks, but it does not remove all of them. You need to know where your seed came from. You need to keep an eye on security notices. And you need to treat your key setup like something that deserves an occasional review. And that is exactly why I made my emergency check video. Links are down in the description below. It covers the foundational rules every crypto user should have locked in. Never share your seed phrases. Buy your hardware wallets only from the official resources. And test transactions before moving sides. Believe you me, I learned that one the hard way. And do yourselves a favor and check the liquidity before touching any protocol. As of this recording, CoinKite has released fixed firmware and says more technical details will come out soon. But unfortunately, I have not seen a public commitment to replenishing Bitcoin that victims have already lost. There may be legal efforts and attempts to trace or recover funds, but recovery is not guaranteed. So please don't wait for a refund and do not wait for a post-mortem summary. If you think your setup could be affected, verify it today. And I want to be clear, and I'm going to say this again. Bitcoin was not hacked. Weak key generation was. And when this video ends, watch my DeFi safety emergency check next. That video gives you the core rules to protect you beyond this cold card incident. Because in crypto, safety comes first. Drop a comment below and let me know what wallet you're using. And remember, rich is built smart, not with luck. Forever Rich, out.